Welcome back to the Centre for Christian Spirituality. We thank you for joining us again as we reflect on the Gospel of next Sunday, the 28th Sunday in Ordinary Time. I invite you now to listen to the reading. Once more Jesus spoke to them in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his slaves to call those who had been invited to the wedding banquet, but they would not come. Again he sent other slaves, saying, 'Tell those who have been invited, look, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fat calves have been slaughtered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet.' But they made light of it and went away, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his slaves, maltreated them and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his troops, destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his slaves, 'The wedding is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore into the main streets and invite anyone you find to the wedding banquet.' Those slaves went out into the streets and gathered all whom they found, both good and bad, so the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing a wedding robe. And he said to him, 'Friend, how did you get in here without a wedding robe?' And he was speechless. Then the king said to the attendants, 'Bind him hand and foot, and throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen.'" Jesus is speaking about the kingdom and the idea of the banquet. That's been a normal image for the kingdom that was to come. And he's speaking to the Jewish leaders. And so this is towards the end of the ministry of Jesus, and he's speaking directly in these next few chapters to the leaders of the Jewish people and pointing out their inadequacies as well. What we have here is a sort of a small image of the history of salvation, that God has come. The people that were invited are not responding. We need perhaps to recognise that in the wedding practice of the time, the invitation meant that you were coming. In other words, they'd already been invited and everything was ready and they just got the nod to come, but of course they didn't come. So I think that the sending of the servants, all of that is to do with the history of Israel and the prophets that are to come. So like a lot of these chapters, these readings for the next few Sundays, it's about invitation and rejection. And then there's that extra bit there about the fellow that came without a wedding garment. You get the impression that everybody in the highways and the byways was wearing a wedding garment, but they must have had time to go home to put it on. But this man didn't. And the garment is often seen in the scriptures as character. In other words, it's an image of what a person is, sort of. And so that this person here, while they haven't got a wedding garment, the point being made is that there's an invitation, but there's something that needs to be done in between. The conclusion here is that many are called, but few are chosen. And I think that always with this invitation, there is that rejection. And we've got here, I think, not just something that's anti-Israel. Notice that all were called in from the highways and the byways, not just the Jewish people, so that you've got a mixture here. So it's not just a Gentile Jew thing. It could apply to people within the Christian community as well. It's taking up the words of Jesus. It's not just those that say, "Lord, Lord," that enter the kingdom, but those that do the will of my Father. And I think that's what that incident about the man without the wedding suit is about. So they're just some thoughts that might help you to look at the gospel yourself.
Well, I'm so glad I understood about he didn't have a wedding garment on, because it meant character.
Yes.
Because I could imagine when every time Jesus singles people out, you kind of, oh, what's going to happen? But I always react to the phrase about the gnashing of the teeth. And it is very hard, I think, with contemporary ears and eyes to hear this and not feel absolutely, crestfallen, because I think to myself, goodness, these people there's a real decision here. Some are going to stay and some are not. So I think it's a very harsh warning to, if you're going to come to the wedding, be prepared.
Yes.
Make sure you've
right.
done your homework. Make sure you've done your very, very best.
Yes.
Because but the alternative sounds pretty awful.
Yeah. When they talk about salvation, going back to John the Baptist even, judgment always was the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
Right? So you're invited, but then again, the judgment if you don't take up the invitation. Yes.
Yes.
I was thinking that we tell stories so often, and pardon me, and the stories we tell often they reveal something about us.
Yes.
And I see that in Jesus, because the image that Jesus takes in that story, I think he takes it from Isaiah, if I'm thinking correctly, and that's about the magnanimity of this incredible feast. And as you said, it's often the way in which we speak of the kingdom.
That's right.
And it's something worth striving for. But in order to strive for it, there are certain kind of conditions that are attached to it in the way in which we do respond to the invitation. And that's the real challenge, isn't it?
It is.
A challenge that we'll live up to one day and we'll flag the next.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great reward, but there's a cost.
There's a cost,
It's
yes.
something that we've got to do. Okay, well, we invite you now to look at the text. What do you draw out of it? Not just repeating what we've said, unless that comes to you as well. But what do you feel the Lord is saying to you in the text today? Welcome back. We invite you now to listen to the reading for a second time.
Once more, Jesus spoke to them in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his slaves to call those who had been invited to the wedding banquet, but they would not come. Again, he sent other slaves, saying, 'Tell those who have been invited, look, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fat calves have been slaughtered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet.' But they made light of it and went away, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his slaves, maltreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his troops, destroying those murderers, and burnt their city. Then he said to his slaves, 'The wedding is ready, but those invited are not worthy. Go therefore into the main streets and invite everyone you find to the wedding banquet.' Those slaves went out into the streets and gathered all whom they found, both good and bad, so the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing a wedding robe, and he said to him, 'Friend, how did you get in here without a wedding robe?' He was speechless. Then the king said to the attendants, 'Bind him hand and foot and throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen.'"
Just looking at what we can do to make this gospel come into our life, my question to myself was, am I willing to pay the cost? Right? And I mean by that not just to put one foot across and just make salvation, as it were, but I think the cost is an ongoing one. The more you respond, the more open you are to respond further. And I think it's good to think about the movement to God as a journey. And I think the key is just to keep travelling. But it's very easy to find a nice spot where religion is comfortable and not keep travelling. So my question to myself is, am I travelling?
I think the idea of keeping on travelling is a good idea, but because if I'm keeping on travelling, I need to have my eyes set on the goal.
The goal, yes.
And if it is the attainment of a place at this incredible banquet, then I need to ask myself, well, what do I need to do in my own life that equips me to have a place at this incredible banquet? So I think I just need to reflect on that in the course of the coming days.
Oh, I feel exhausted. I feel as though I'm being called to swim upstream, and some days I just want to, run with the stream, because it is very confronting to say many are called and few are chosen. And so I suppose I describe it as a good talk to myself, and just, am I doing enough? Really, am I doing enough? Is there more I could do? So I think that's probably what I need to do. A good examining.
The image of the stream is a good one, I think.
Is it? Just some days
Cassian has this image that you can row up the river, up the stream against the current, but the minute you stop rowing, you go there. So we do have to, even when things are a bit tough, we've at least got to keep rowing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We invite you now to look at the text and see what can you draw out of the text to reflect on and to implement in your life. The implementation is the hard thing. Prayer is one thing, but moving that to our life is a very difficult thing. And so we need the help of the Lord. Without me you can do nothing, he said. So let's just pause for prayer and ask for the grace to give us the strength and courage to implement what we have chosen. Thank you for being with us. We are always grateful that you give your time to share what we have to offer, and we hope that we'll see you again next week. We're going to conclude now by reading the Gospel from the liturgy of the day of the 28th Sunday in Ordinary Time.
May your grace, O Lord, we pray, at all times go before us and follow after, and make us always determined to carry out good works. Through Christ our Lord.